Hello, hello. Good evening and welcome to Yin Yoga with Annchen. I'm Annchen and welcome to day three. Day three of the 5-day, 5 poses Yin Yoga challenge. And in this challenge, we're going to be exploring the archetypes or the pose families of Yin Yoga, and basically understanding the archetype and the target area in the target area of each archetypal pose can help you to understand some of the other Yin Yoga poses. So every day what we do is we examine one of the 5 Yin Yoga poses of the 7 archetypal poses. And what we do is we explore specific muscles of the target area. The target area is the area where we need to feel that stretch. And then we're going to do a practical exploration to identify which of the variation actually suits your unique skeletal structure. And because all of us have different bones, which have different sizes and shapes, and this actually ultimately affects the way we can move. So before we start, I would like to wish you all a happy Moon Day. I hope you enjoyed the moon. I think the moon is between today and yesterday. If you were in the United States or Australia, I'm sure you could see the moon, the lovely color of the moon, and enjoy the energy. And so today we're going to be focusing on the caterpillar pose. And the target area of the caterpillar is actually the whole of the back of the body. So that includes so let me just show you. So that includes the hamstrings, that is the back of the muscles, the back of the thighs. It also includes what we call the thorocalumbar muscles, which are the muscles, which are basically the muscles that run along the side of the spine. And then, of course, the whole of the spine. So that's the area that we're going to, the skeletal segment that we're going to be working on. And so the caterpillar, in Yin Yoga, we actually, so let me just start to talk about what we are focusing on in the caterpillar pose. So in the caterpillar pose, before we actually look at the variations, in the caterpillar pose, there are 2 areas that I'd just like you to remind you of. And the one is that in the caterpillar and all the forward bends, we actually round our back. So you may know, for example, Paschimottanasana, and when we come into Paschimottanasana, for example, many of you may be accustomed to the idea of straightening your back. Whereas in Yin Yoga, what we're going to be doing is we round the back. And the reason we round the back is because we want to stretch the back, and specifically the ligaments along the side of the spine. And this is something that it has a medical term, which is traction. And traction is actually when we apply, basically we need to relax the muscles to stress the deep tissues in the back of the body. And to stress the ligaments, in Yin Yoga, basically what we do is we relax the back muscles. And the stress is provided by gravity. So that's the reason why we round the back. Also, when you're in this position, just make sure that when you're moving forward, you don't engage the muscles of your chest, because if you engage the muscles of your chest, you will feel, and you can actually feel now, if you come forward engaging the muscles, you can feel that the back muscles engage. And we don't want to engage the back muscles, we want to relax them. Okay, so that's the first point. And then the second point is the key to doing this pose, to doing the caterpillar pose and all its what I like to call babies. This depends on tilting the pelvis forward. So if you find it's challenging to tilt the pelvis forward, I would always suggest sitting up on a bolster. So that would be the first thing to think of. If you have any issues with moving forward, then if you find that when you are sitting, your pelvis is tilting backwards, then definitely sitting on a bolster automatically tilts your pelvis forward, and then will help you to move a little bit further forward in the pose. Right. Okay, so that's been lots of speaking. And so today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the asymmetrical version of caterpillar. And the reason why we look at the asymmetrical pose is that it basically gives the pelvis a little bit more space so it can move. Because when we have both the legs out, the pelvis has perhaps a little bit less movement. And the other reason is because we can get deeper into the muscles, into the hamstrings. And the hamstrings, there are a group of muscles, but we can actually even isolate certain of the muscles by working only with one. Phew. So I've been talking a lot now, so let's move now on to what we're going to be doing today is actually 3 variations. So the way it works is I will provide you with the 3 variations, and I invite you to move along with me. And as you're moving along with me, then experiment with me and find out which of the 3 variations works best for you. And then when we go into the actual practice, then you can choose and remain with the one that works for you. Also remember that we are asymmetrical, so perhaps you can find, perhaps there are 2 variations that you like, so perhaps try the one variation on one side and the other variation on the other side. Right, okay, so let's get started with the first one. So the first one is called half butterfly. So half butterfly, stretch one leg out in front of you and the other towards your groin. And here actually I have a surprise. I have actually 2 options here. So the first option in this pose would be the typical Jana Sirsana, where I come forward like this, rounding my back. So that's the first option. And the other option, which I actually love, and I'd really invite you to experiment with it, is actually moving forward. Because I find that really gets into my hamstrings. So if you're moving forward, for example, you could lean on a bolster. Okay, so I invite you, just take a, maybe 10 seconds, just checking out how this option works. So this is variation 1, which has 2 alternatives. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's variation 1. Variation 2 is what we call half shoelace. So if you have your foot here, simply lift it up and bring it over your leg. Yes, you can see it that I've tucked it over the leg. If you're with me on day 1, you'll be able to see we explored shoelace. Important thing here, just to check in with your knee, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. But the positive thing about having the knee is that it provides more weight. And so perhaps you can feel a really nice hamstring stretch. And so from here, coming forward, again, rounding the back and just checking in with the hamstrings. Okay. So that's variation 2. And now let's look at another one of my personal favorites, which is the half frog. So the half frog, take your leg and bring it behind you, as I'm doing here. And then from here, once again, coming forward like this. Okay. Right. So I hope you've managed to identify which of the 3 variations suits you. Remember, as I said, you can also choose another one. You can choose one on one side and another on the other side. So we're going to be staying on each side for 5 minutes. So at the end of the 5 minutes, you'll hear this sound, and then we'll come up slowly and I will provide you with a counterpose. Okay, and just one warning, you don't need to copy me. What I really invite you, and this is why I gave you the variations, is try to use the variation that suits you. The variation where you feel a really nice stretch in your hamstrings. Okay, so let's get started. So coming into the position, remember also if this is uncomfortable for your hamstrings, please sit up on a bolster. And I'm going to be doing the half butterfly coming forward. Oh. So as you come forward, remember not to be aggressive as you enter into the pose. Because remember, this is not the other types of yoga where we stay for a shorter period of time and we need to engage the muscles to protect the joints. So in this type of yoga, in yin yoga, the idea is to relax the muscles in order to get to stress and strengthen the joints, especially the connective tissue. Remember, we are rounding the back. So one of the biggest challenges in yin, when we learn yin and when we teach yin, is to make ourselves and our students aware that yin is about how the pose feels. It's not about how the pose looks. And that's sometimes really difficult because this is something that seeps through so many parts of our education, our learning. Our tendency is to copy. And this is what functional yoga is talking about. Functional yoga talks about how we need to focus on the differences and to try to be aware of our difference and to be aware that the difference, the skeletal difference in our body actually affects the poses, how we can do the poses and how we feel in the poses. So perhaps out there are many of you that are doing this pose that perhaps looks similar to the one that I'm doing, but you all have different bodies and bones, so you may be feeling it in a different way. So there may be people that will be up like this, round about here. Maybe they'll be sitting on a bolster, or there'll be people that will be collapsed onto the floor. And that is because they all have a different range of motion, ultimately because of their bones, the shape of their bones. because in the end, it is compression that is going to stop you from moving forward or deeper into a pose. And so this is, as I said, the challenging part of yin when you're learning it and when you are teaching it, that people slowly come to learn about their own body, about its possibilities as well as its limitations. And then once the person is aware of that, then they can become actually more aware of their own body and just start to become more introspective. And that is, after all, what yoga is about. Yoga is not about the outside, the exterior. It's not a performance art. Yoga is actually about moving inwards. Okay, so slowly coming up. Move the bolster aside for a moment. And then let's just stretch out the muscles, stretch out the legs, and let's just relax here. Remember, this is the rebound pose. This is the pose in between poses in yin, where we notice the effect of the pose on our body. It could be a warm or cool or tingling sensation. Okay, right. So let's move now to the other side. And once again, please choose the option that you felt worked for you. So you could repeat the same variation, or you could follow me, or you could do, remember, the shoelace. That would be the other option. I'm going to choose the half frog, so bringing my leg behind me. And once again, just if you need to be on a bolster, please continue on a bolster. And 5 minutes and moving forward. So as I mentioned before, yin is introspective. Yin encourages introspection precisely because we are encouraged as practitioners, and we should encourage as teachers. We should encourage our students to reflect on sensations in their body, reflect on how their body feels when they're doing the pose. So slowly they can become aware of what works for them. And of course, as we are all different, and we have a different range of motion because of these bones, there will be some poses that will work for you, and there will be some that won't. There will be some that you can work towards because of you have issues of tension. And tension, yes, we can work with tension, but we can't change compression. So as we were discussing with external rotation in the first class, in the first day one, external rotation, we can work with it a little bit if it's tension in the groin. But otherwise, we can't take it away. We can't move our muscles. And that doesn't matter, because what we do is we look at the poses that work for us. We work with those poses. And so when you offer, or you are offered to do half butterfly, hopefully in the future, you and your students will be able to say, okay, well, this variation really works for me, so I'm going to stick with this one. I don't need to do the half shoelace because that doesn't work for my body. My body doesn't have that type of range of motion. So the most important thing is being aware of where you have your possibilities and your limits, and focusing on feeling that stretch. So as I mentioned before, the target area and the hamstrings, the back of the thighs, and then all along your back. So particularly the lumbar spine, sometimes thoracic, and also cervical, if you're allowing your head to drop. And so in conclusion, yin is introspective. It is looking inwards. It is asking the question, what do I feel? It is not aesthetic. And basically, aesthetic is about what I look like. And the danger with what I look like is that sometimes it avoids or doesn't take into consideration what is good for my body, what is good for the practitioners. And when we do this, when we avoid that variation, the idea of differences, then ultimately this can lead to injury and frustration. So that is why I believe that the functional approach to yoga and yin yoga, where we are encouraged to listen and respect our body, is a really enriching practice. Okay, so slowly coming up, and then straighten out your legs once again. So just taking a moment to feel the differences. Perhaps you felt that this side was a bit tighter, a bit more tension, or perhaps it was easier, perhaps it felt better. Remember, we are asymmetrical. And now let's just move to another counterpose you could do, which is called Windshield Wipers. So bending your knees with your feet hip width apart, and then just very slowly letting your hips, letting your knees fall from side to side. Okay. Right. Okay, so that is the end of that exploration. But just to finish it off, let's lie down just for a minute, just to feel the effects of this pose on the different areas of our body. So just coming to a lying position, relax with your arms out, palms facing upwards. And then let's just take 3 breaths together. So inhale, then exhale, inhale, and exhale, and the last one, inhale, and exhale. Just noticing the effect of the pose on your body. Okay, so then bending your knees now and rocking up to a seated position. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope you found a wonderful variation that is great for you and great for your unique body. And please join me tomorrow, day 4, where we are going to be exploring straddle or dragonfly posture, the archetypal pose. That's a fun one. That's an exciting one to have a look at. And remember also, if you would like to have more information, if you are a beginner to yin or you're a teacher of yin and you'd like to know a little bit more, please sign up. The link is below. So you can get some fascinating, informative worksheets on these poses, on all the archetypal poses, as well as the variations we're going to be doing today, or we've done today, we've done in the past, and we're going to do in the next 2 days. Okay, so have a wonderful day. Take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.